For decades, we have envisioned the ability to create believable simulacra of human behavior. Computer-generated behavior that is so compelling and so human-like that it provides an illusion of life. Today, I'm going to introduce a new way of simulating human behavior in fully general computational agents by fusing a large language model like ChatGPT with a novel agent architecture that can remember, plan, and reflect based on constantly growing memories and cascading social dynamics. These agents I'm going to demonstrate can not only plan and lead a believable day in life, where they wake up in the morning, do their routines, and go to work as individuals in a sandbox game environment without any hard-coded scripts, but they can also come together to give birth to an entirely artificial society of their own. What you see here is a map of a game world that we developed called Smallville. And though it may look and feel like a game that you and I may have played as a child, Smallville features all the common affordances that are found in a typical small village. There are houses, apartments, stores, a cafe, bar, school, as well as their sub-areas and objects that make the space functional. And we populated this space with 25 generative agents, each with distinct identities that we've given them, described in one paragraph of English sentences. For instance, we told Isabella that she is the cafe owner of Hobbs Cafe who loves to make people feel welcome, and that she is planning to host a Valentine's Day party. And with that as the only human input, we are able to simulate believable lives for these agents. Here's what a typical day looks like for Isabella, for instance. In broad strokes, she wakes up early and completes her morning routine around 6 a.m. and prepares to open her cafe by 8. She notices and interacts with her customers throughout the day, perhaps even inviting them to the party that she's organizing. And around 6 p.m., her working day comes to an end as she heads to a local store to buy supplies. And in close-up, we can see that these broad-stroke behaviors are composed of smaller sequences of action that can impact and alter the game world environment. If, for instance, Isabella thought to herself, I want to make coffee, she'd first check that her cup is cleaned, then turn on the coffee machine, and occupy one of the empty chairs in her cafe as she waits for her coffee to finish brewing. Take a look at this interaction between Latoya and Sam, for instance. At the start of the simulation, these two are strangers, but over time, they remember their interactions with one another, and they form a relationship. The first time they meet is while taking a walk in a park. They introduce themselves, and Latoya tells Sam that she's there to take photos for the project that she's working on. And the next day, when Sam sees Latoya again, he remembers her as well as her project and says, Hi Latoya, how's your project going? To which Latoya responds, Hi Sam, it's going well. But it's not just these one-on-one interactions that take place in Smallville. Remember from earlier that we planted in an initial identity that she's planning to organize a Valentine's Day party. Over time in the simulation, that seed we planted in Isabella causes her to invite others to the party and even enlist Maria to help her decorate the cafe. And later that day, Maria asks Klaus, her secret crush, to go to the party with her. And on the day of Valentine's, 5 agents, including Maria and Klaus, actually show up at Hobbs Cafe to enjoy the festivities, while others choose not to or simply forget, as we sometimes do in our lives. But that's not all. In Smallville, you do not have to be a mere passive observers of these agents. Instead, you can interact with them. You can change their environment, burn their toast, and watch them rush to put out the fire and remake their breakfast, or command the agents by rewriting their memories to plant new ideas, like here, where we're telling John that he's now planning to run for local mayor, and watch him share his candidacy with his family. Or enter the simulation yourself to directly talk and engage with these agents. Hi, Isabella.
Hi, Joon. How are you?
Great. I'm with the TED AI audience. Do you want to say hi?
Happy to. Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoyed Joon's talk, and don't forget to swing by Hobbs Cafe.
So how did we achieve this agent behavior? What makes generative agents possible today is the development of large language models, but there's a challenge. A language model doesn't remember no reason beyond their current interaction with you, and they operate in natural language that is detached from our physical reality. So how can we leverage the richness of a language model to generate human behavior? Here's how. First, we translate the perceptual stimuli of our agents into natural language sentences. So in the case of what Isabella perceived at her cafe, it might be phrases like Maria is chatting with Klaus or the chair is empty. We then store these sentences in their natural language format in a long-term memory that we call the memory stream. And we retrieve from it only a small subset of the memories that are most relevant to responding to the agent's current situation. So if Isabella is asked, what are you excited about? Then she might retrieve memories that are about her Valentine's Day party. And we use these retrieved memories to generate plans, actions, and reflections for these agents using a language model. And in evaluation, what we find is that the generative agents that are fully equipped with the agent architecture that I proposed here produces behavior that is significantly more believable than both ChatGPT and even the human crowd workers role-playing as these agents.
So this was the paper that talk was based on. Generative Agents, Interactive Simulacra of Human Behavior. Joon Park was the main researcher on this out of Stanford, and this was a collaboration between Stanford Google Research and Google DeepMind. The thing about this paper that really jumped out at me is that they tested a number of different approaches to create the most believable characters that were running around that game, and they paid people to sort of take a survey and determine how believable they found those characters. And they assigned them sort of a true skill rank rating to see how believable they were. One of the groups was human crowd workers. So they hired real life humans. A unique worker watched each of the 25 agents, and he or she were tasked with watching a replay of that agent's sandbox life and inspecting its memory stream. When we asked the workers to roleplay and author responses to the interview questions in the voice of the agent whose replay they watched. And those humans did, pretty well at acting like believable humans. The AI agents without the architecture of reflection, planning, and observation were not as believable as humans. But as we add those architectures that he mentioned, the memory stream and reflecting back on it, planning your day in these tighter and tighter increments, observation, as we add those, how believable those agents were goes up and up and up and up with the full architecture, making the AI agents much more believable than human crowd workers, than humans answering those questions. You can actually watch the simulation yourself, click on characters and see what they're doing, see what the conversations are. I'll leave the link down in the show notes. Here's all of them running around. By default, they have these little emojis where they're saying like bagel and donut or whatever, but underneath this, there's full text that's happening. If they're talking to somebody, full conversations are happening. If you click on them, you sometimes are able to see the conversation. Here's a conversation, for example, that is happening right now between this person and Francisco Lopez, I believe. So each of these interactions is played out. What's even more interesting is that the code and everything else that you need to run one of these simulations yourself was open sourced after a few months after this paper came out. So there's a GitHub link, and if you're interested, you can actually download this and run your own village. You just hook up your own API key. You can actually create each and every single character that you want. So you don't have to have the same 25 people. You can have any number of people that you want. You run it in a simulation server, and then once that's done, you're actually able to save the simulation and then replay it in this sort of format with the graphics and all that stuff. What's interesting here is this is A16Z, the big venture firm mainly investing in tech and now more and more in AI ventures. They published another open source thing called AI Town. It's very similar to Joon Park's Smallville. He's not mad about it or anything. Here he is at A16Z talking about the various ideas behind his research. It's called Inside AI Town, what AI can teach us about being human. And here the idea is very similar. You can use ChatGPT to create these agents that go about their daily lives, create conversations, etc. It's open source. You can interact with it. And of course, OpenAI bought the makers of a open source Minecraft clone called BIOMES. Companies called Global Emanations, and they produced BIOMES, this open source sandbox MMO RPG. I apologize if those acronyms are meaningless to you. It just means there's a whole bunch of players in this large world going about their business. So OpenAI owns this. Microsoft, the other big AI player, owns Minecraft, of course. The massive venture fund has AI Town. And I think in part, Joon Park and his generative agents paper were like the first domino that kind of made people realize what was possible. Because the applications here are quite vast, not just for AI research. If you have a massive multiplayer online game where humans interact with agents, work together, etc., that generates data, that generates texts and actions and all sorts of stuff to help train these agents within those virtual worlds. The AI agents will be better at taking actions, interacting with human beings, being more believable. So as the game itself generates data for AIs to train on, to improve themselves, that in itself is a massive well. It's the new oil, basically, for the AI companies. But as Joon Park mentioned, the applications go much, much further than that. We're able to use this to create simulations of the real world. For example, a large corporation before rolling out a new plan, some new initiative can simulate what might happen when they do that. So to simulate how well the employees and the customers, etc., will behave. As these simulations improve, we might get better and better at actually predicting what might happen when we make these big societal changes, whether that's at a company level or a state level, etc. This wouldn't be the first time that a massive multiplayer online game helped researchers with data that helped them predict how real life would play out. World of Warcraft experienced a pandemic in 2005. There was a glitch in the game that caused a certain spell effect to basically multiply without stopping. As people ran around, they gave it to each other. It would continue until it pretty much slowly over time, there was this viral growth. And as they say here, a damaging effect called corrupted blood ravaged thousands of players and left lower level characters in an unavoidable death loop. The effect, known as a debuff, was a temporary condition, but one that could spread to other players if they stood close enough to each other, just like a real virus. Now, of course, in World of Warcraft, every single player made it their life's mission to spread as much of that corrupted blood debuff to as many people as possible. Blizzard had to restart every single WoW server to stop it from spreading out of control. Here's Joon Park's website. I'm really looking forward to seeing what else he's going to put out there. I think papers like this will help us create better research into how to run companies, societies, potentially even medical insights. And maybe potentially the most important application of this is, absolutely insane video games, right? Can you imagine? Anyways, my name is Wes Roth. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.